Hey guys, Tom here from Green Mountain Projects. Bringing you a pretty sweet video here. Going to be doing a review, install, testing video on a product I recently received. Reached out to this vendor, talked to them. They thought I would be a good fit to show you guys and recommend, if I recommend it. From what the research I've done, I think I'm going to recommend it. Here it is. So in these boxes is a new tonneau cover. I got a 2020 Ram 1500. It's the 5th generation. This bed cover is from Peragon. Peragon is an American-made company, which is something I really would like to advocate for more and more as my channel grows. All the reviews I could find on these were like 5 stars, basically. Something that really stuck out to me about this is the way this folds up. A lot smaller and be completely removable in the case you need that full bed length all the way up to that front bed rail. Because, you know, that's always been an issue with tonneau covers. When you fold it all the way up to the front, the amount of room it takes up once it's folded can be sometimes still a big issue. With some of the newer trucks that are emphasizing a little bit more in cab space, makes the bed, 5'7" instead of 6 foot whatever. This does come in 2 packages basically. Although the box was beat up a little bit, it was packaged very well on the inside, I'll say. It was hard to get it out actually, but it has these nice, precision cut foam inserts that keep them all from touching each other and scratch free when they're coming your way, even if your shipping carrier is a little rough. So these are your bed rail caps. Some type of a rod. This is to unlock it. Excellent packaging. Boxes of what looks like probably hardware and parts. This is our main section of the tonneau cover. It's got the big Made in America flag. Love to see that. Scan for install videos. You scan that QR code on your phone, it'll take you to videos showing you exactly how to install it if you're not watching this video. About a day or 2 after the order was placed for this, I did receive an email from them. So they're actually sending you content on how to do the installs before you even get it. So if you're kind of like me and you want to educate yourself ahead of time, you have that option. All right, so here are aluminum brackets. That is some kind of other metal bracket. So you have your assembly, operation, and maintenance manual right here. As always, 2 nice stickers. If you don't give stickers, you shouldn't sell product. Now getting into this box, handful of metal brackets here. We've got hardware, screws, little bushings, wheels. Looking at this user manual, it's very well set up. You can see that the pictures are really well drawn. It also in the beginning has plenty of information. Scratch repair, duplicate color, universal black all-in-one, which is something you can get. Those are the cans they got at like most AutoZones and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Got the tools required. It's got notes on planning your installation, all the information on where you can watch videos, and then it starts getting into the breakdown of all the parts. Really good exploded views of the different parts and how they go together. So with these covers, there are 3 levels of models of this cover. There's the classic, which is around $1,000. It's got a 1-year warranty. There's a platinum, which is around $1,300. It's got a 3-year warranty. And this one, which I have, is the limited HD X, which is their kind of more rugged. It's got a bed liner type finish on it, and that's got a 5-year warranty. Comes in around $1,700. Kind of nice. They got options. $1,000 is a lot more in reach of other brands, but then you also can get a much higher quality one, especially if you work with your truck, you're in construction or anything like that, and you're going to need this rugged. It's that's exactly what I was looking for. All right, so I've got all these pieces and parts basically unpackaged other than the small hardware. There's these 2 silver pieces of metal for these little L bracket, 2 of these, some kind of sliding bracket. These are your clamps that clamp onto the bed rails. Should have 6 of those, 2 of these larger triangle pieces, and then 2 of these smaller ones. These 2 rods right here with the handles on the end. For the smaller parts, you are going to have this bag that has all the nuts and bolts and screws. And something cool I noticed about this is it says, start here. So obviously as you're installing it, you're going to go through each pocket. It's kind of cool that it shows you the progression so you know what you're going to need first so you can, work your way through the install. So just to go through the tools you're going to need: 1/8 inch Allen wrench, that is included, a 7/16 wrench, an 1/8 inch, and a 1/2 inch wrench. So you can also use a socket probably. So it does give you the bolt torque specs for this. There's a couple different sizes, the 10 to 24. So that's going to be 23 inch-pounds, which is actually 2 foot-pounds if you have a normal torque wrench. 1/4 to 20, that's going to need 80 inch-pounds, 6.7 foot-pounds roughly. Lastly, you'll have your M6 bolts, which is a M6 by 1 by 24 millimeter. That is a 5.4 foot-pounds. So not very tight. So you don't want to be using high torque drip pack gun or something like that on. Probably you want to definitely do this by hand so you don't break anything or over tighten and cause unnecessary wear on the hardware. So as we start going through this installation, our first step is going to be the mounting brackets, which includes these guys and these silver bars. All right, so now for installing your mounting brackets, this part will go inside of here, just like this. This bracket sits upward like this and clamps right there. And as far as the spacing and where these go, I put blue painter's tape on. There's specific measurements it calls from off of this flat front bed rail surface. Your first one is going to be to the front edge of this, 20 inches, 39 and a half, and then 59 and a half inches to the back one. Put these things on, I'm going to start hand tightening it, and it specs it out for about 13 foot-pounds. All right, guys, so our next step is going to be utilizing these two silver rods. This is a tool. You're going to take the tool that has the bevel in it right here, stick it in the slot at the bottom. The tool that has a U shape will go right in these slots. And what you're going to be doing is pushing down on the bottom one to keep this bracket plumb. And then you're going to use this top tool to wrench up on this piece to bend it at the bend right here. You can use the app on your iPhone, or if you have a level or whatnot. Basically, you're going to be bending this thing up this way just a little bit to give a positive 1 degree incline. But basically, you're going to do this. Just like that. And that is roughly a 1 degree bend. They do recommend, if you don't have the app on your phone, to use a level. You do want to make sure you have your car parked on a flat surface. If you are not able to be on a flat surface, you don't need to be. What you want to do is take your control, put this on your bedside, see how off level you are. Check this, which is way further than it needs to be. So I'm going to bend it back down a little bit. By pushing these together. All right, so starting out on our front rail cover piece, which is this one that has these little brackets on either end of it, your side ones, and has the logo on it. So we're going to take this piece with the U shape facing up. What we're going to have to do is put the spring bracket on it first. You're going to want to grab this bag of hardware. You will start where it says start here. This is where your little Allen wrench is. There are 2 little bolts, nylon lock nuts, and the bracket. So this is going to go on your passenger side. So this is your quick release spring clip. As you can see, it has a bend in it. This bend is going to want to be out and away. This is what releases bundle of the cover to pull it out of your bed completely. So this is going to go right on here. You have 2 nuts to hold it in. They're going to go through these 2 holes, and through these 2 holes on this, you're going to want to put the bolt this way through it, and your nylon lock nut on the inside. If you flip it over, you can see. Now to tighten this, you're going to want to take your 3/8 inch socket. So once that's on, you should have this springy little guy. Take this front rail piece, and it's going to go up here. These little lips here on either end are going to be sitting on top of your side bed rails. This lip on the back is going to be sitting on the top of this front bed rail. So something to note here, if you do have these like plastic bed caps, or you might have to trim this plastic right here. So the next thing you're going to need is what they call the ramp assembly, which is these 2 bigger triangular pieces, and your 2 adjustment brackets. We will also be getting into the second pouch on our hardware that has 2 carriage bolts, 2 washers, and 2 nylon lock nuts. So now you're going to want to take each of these brackets. You want to hold it up so that you're reading, the numbers correctly. They're not backwards. And then what you're going to do is take your adjustment bracket, this hole in the adjustment bracket, you put this on too, and then you put your washer and your lock nut. And this is a 7/16. So when you have it all together, it should look like this. You can see on the back side of this adjustment bracket, there's a little tab. The tab is going to go in the little slotted track on the ramp bracket. Our second one, and that's both. So So the next step we're going to get to is taking the side rails, which are these pieces here with the Peragon logo on it, and that ramp assembly that we just put together, and basically combine them. So to do that, first you're going to want to designate which one is your passenger and your driver's side, and to do that, on the rail assembly there'll be a stamped impression. This has 57D. The D means driver. And to figure out the ramp assembly, what side is what, there is a number inscribed on the top, which is the part number, and then it'll say either D or P as well on it. The way to also distinguish them is on the ramp assemblies. There's going to be a spring on the passenger side. Only the passenger side has the spring on it. So as far as mounting the ramp bracket onto your bed rail cap, what you want to do is it needs to be oriented this way. So this is the side with the letters inscribed on it on the bed rail. The extension bracket side needs to go away from it. This little piece that sticks down is going to go and catch right in this gap right here. So here's your passenger side. So the next step is your rail assembly, it's called, which are these two smaller triangular pieces. These are labeled with P's and D's as far as passenger and driver side. Here on the rail assembly, you do have this little plastic piece. So this fits into the T-track that you were putting the bolts in. Slide it along the track towards the back of the ramp bracket. It'll kind of fit in this little cutout groove right here. Before you slide it all the way up that way, you want to fold it downward and nest it right into the... All right, moving forward, our next step is going to now be connecting these side rails with that front bed rail. You're going to want to take your hardware set, open up your next slot, which should have 2 of the 1/4-inch bolts, 2 more nylon nuts, and washers. All right, so coming up to the front corner here, you have your front cross brace, rail bracket, whatever you want to call it. You got your, this is our driver's side. There's also a threaded bolt that sticks down right here. So this is just a guide, and there's a nice little hole right here in this bracket that this bolt goes into to help line it up. You're then going to take this bolt right here, put it in your T-track. Right in here, there's a nice little slot. That's gonna, you're gonna put your washer and your nut on it. It's gonna slide into that slot, and you'll tighten that down. And then that little nut will slide in here, just like that. And then you'll do the same to the other side. I'm gonna lay it back down. I'm gonna prep it by putting this bolt in the track. And there's our passenger side. If anyone's wondering what these are the Sea-Doo, like, kind of anchoring systems. You can put like coolers on the back of your jet skis. So I bought them, and I made my own brackets for like a bike rack that go across my bed. So our next task is going to be your lock rod brackets. It retains the lock rod, which is this, that goes all the way up to the front to lock and unlock the bed cover. You're going to want to pre-assemble these with your next pocket of bolts. So if you're holding the bracket with a little notch facing upward, bolt will go through the top so that the bolt and this little bracket are going to be riding in the T-track along the bed rail. Just throw a washer and a nut, just barely get it started. I'm going to do that for all 4. Start by sliding these into the T-track. You can see the T-track right here. With these, you are going to slide them with other supplied bolts in that same sleeve. So you're going to do a bolt, one of these, followed by a bolt, the second one, and then a third bolt. And those bolts that are just standalone are actually going to be what go and mount into these brackets here. Make sure the little notch is going forward before the bolt part. Another bolt, notch first, and your last one. So we're going to slide our first bolt down all the way down to right here, so it fits right in that hole there. Then we have our next bracket. Will sit right in front of this one. Our next bolt, that'll sit in the groove. Our next bracket that sits in front of the far back mounting bracket, and our last bolt that goes in that groove. So now we have our nylon lock nut and washer on here, just hand tight, so it's still movable, so we can adjust it as needed before we really tighten it down. Our next piece is going to be these end caps, which are also spacers that go right in the T-track, so cut those out. These are what these look like. And basically this is to space this bed cover front to back. So we're going to put the tailgate up, and it's going to want to touch this so that this gasket seal along the top. I am in the bed right now. Pull my tailgate up so you can see there is a bit of a gap. I'm going to slide this forward until this spacer tool is resting on the tailgate. So it's tight there and tight on this side. Now it's time to tighten up our bolts underneath. All right, so next we are going to take our lock rods. We should have 2 of them. To the end of each lock rod, has a threaded hole, and you're going to take your next set from here, which is 2 more bolts that are Allen. So you're going to want to reuse that Allen key that you got with the set. We're then going to take our lock rods up through the brackets we put in. The brackets are still loose because we want to see what appropriate spacing is going to be before we tighten them. So you want to take your lock rod, put it up, stick it through the frontmost bracket, so it should look something like that. We're going to cut loose these bolts that have the Allen head on them. As you can see, it also has some red thread locker. So now you're going to want to place these to where they have to 7 inches in front of the middle bracket, 12 inches ahead of the rear bracket. So we're going to have to take the lock rod back out about 7 inches, right at 12. Tighten those up. Now we insert our lock rod. You're going to probably have to flex it around this bracket out back. So now you're going to want to take your little Allen nut. As far as the lining up of these, you have your threaded hole here on the lock rod. That's going to come and go into, there's a round section on the back of the plastic piece. This is going to go into here. Then this piece is going to come up, cover that, and line the hole up with that hole, and then put our screw in there. Take our Allen wrench and tighten it up. And now when you pull that lock rod, it does that. Just finished up the driver's side. So one thing to check with this, when it's fully opened, when you push this forward, this is not hitting this bracket either. So now we're going to want to come back to our hardware kit, open up our next section. We should have a bunch of like rubber bumpers, and then basically these go into the cover part. You're going to want to grab the whole cover assembly. So on the cover assembly, you can see there's little holes. So every other panel has a hole or 2 on each side, so that when the panels are folded up like this, so you're going to take your little bumper, go up to your hole, and press it in. So when you close it, the little bumper is going to sit on the next panel. Should have 10 of these bumpers. I push them in and then give them a twist. They really seat well and they don't pop back out. And you can remove this stuff once you put those bumpers in because they'll help protect it. So I did find the location of the last 4 on this track on the inside, on a couple of the opposite ones that don't have bumpers on them already. So next thing to do is install the roller assemblies, and basically this will be the last thing in your hardware kit. These are going to go on the last panel when you flip it over. Push them through and get your lock nuts threaded on. These are small, so you're going to want your 3/8 socket. Now to get the cover portion installed on the tracks, basically on the end of these brackets, there's just a little knob basically that sticks out that doesn't have wheels on it. So what this is going to do is there's a hole on each side that you would stick this knob into. You'd put the driver's side in first, and then you pull that little lever back and then slide the passenger side and it'll click in. Ooh, shit. Don't do that. So there's basically a little hole here that will slide into on the driver's side. So you put the driver's side in first, and then you come over to the passenger side, which is where that little release bracket is, so that you can slide it and it pops into that hole of the release bracket. And then all you gotta do is push that release bracket to pull it back out. Here I just kind of twisted it up and put the real little wheels in the track there. Take the driver's side, stick it in here, come over to the other side, put it up so it locks in. And to take it out, all you got to do is hit this little lever and it pulls right out. Now coming under here, these brackets here, the ramp that's supposed to catch these wheels, it's kind of flexible here. You have that ramp support bracket that is extendable. So you're basically going to do is you're going to extend it, push it off the side of the bed to flex the ramp inward so that those wheels don't miss the ramp, so that the wheel catches the track and then gets routed up onto the track when you pull it closed. Flex this bottom out so that it's just barely touching that wheel. So now you just got to tighten that nut under there once you have it where you want it. So when it's adjusted correctly, it should hit just like that. You want to adjust the other side as well. So now that you've got those spacer brackets aligned for the ramps, all you got to do is you have your pull string, basically. So before you pull this open, you want to make sure that both of those locking rods are pushed forward in the unlocked position. Then you're going to pull this until it comes all the way to the rear. I can tell it's a little tight, so I'm probably going to have to work on pushing those rails out when I make my final adjustments towards the tailgate end. If you can see, obviously the front is dented up. Pull those locking rods on each side. When you do that, it'll straighten it out like this. 1, 2, and you're all set. All right, guys, so I've been driving around with this thing for a few days now. So far I am absolutely loving this cover. You can see I kind of got my bed set back up. I got my pack out boxes in there with all my chains and ratchet strap. It fits great. It's still, even though it all folds up in the front and kind of hinges down, it does leave plenty of room for tool cargo box stuff, kind of like I do. The nice thing is now, with my old cover, it would be, when it was tri-folded up, there'd be plenty of room behind the closest point, where my toolboxes would end. Now my toolboxes are actually out further than the cover once it's pushed all the way back, which just shows how much extra space there is. Alright guys, so something pretty significant about this cover that I'm most impressed about is really the construction of it. This is pretty decently thick. This is solid aluminum. I got right here is my metal gauge, measurement device. If I had to guess, this is probably 16 or 18 gauge. So it's 14 gauge actually, which is even better. If you don't know how it works, the lower the gauge, the thicker the materials. 14 gauge is 0.07 of an inch thick. But, this whole cover, this nice solid aluminum. As this is the higher grade of these models, they make the 3 levels of these covers. It has this nice kind of bed linerish type finish. It's gonna hold up well. It doesn't, you can't put any scratch marks in it when you just kind of roughly try to scratch it, and really nothing's happening to it. Yeah, I can't get this thing to really scratch. Also, what I really like to see is the way this has all these really nice gaskets on it, so that, when this thing folds up, it's gasketing against itself to be, pretty watertight. Taking a look at this cover with it closed, it just has a really nice appearance to it. It's got, you can see the gaskets in between each layer here. It's going to really keep it, it's nice and tight. There's no gaps. It's going to keep it, nice and watertight so your stuff inside does not get wet. Looking at this back edge, we got a nice big gasket here to seal it against the tailgate. Little rubber flaps here to help in this spot. Along this whole edge going down here, you can see this gasket here that tucks in really nice and tight. All right, guys, so let's just not assume it's going to be good, and let's put it to the test with this is not a pressure washer. This is just one of those kind of turbojet nozzles on a normal hose bib from my house. This would be more pressure than a normal rainstorm would be. Let's put it that way. Let's give this thing a spray and see what we find as far as any leaks. Opening it up. Well, damn. That worked actually. I thought there was going to be a little more water getting. The only stuff that's in there as of right now is just because since I've opened the tailgate, it's now letting the water go in. I was basically, spraying pretty hard here in this area, so there should be, if it was coming through this seal here, it would be all water along here, and it really is not. Now let's try spraying around the sides a little. Really nothing. Wow. Again, nothing has come through on any of either of these sides. Just to clarify on that puddle dripping, that's because I have a hole in the top of my bed rail from an old mounting bracket. It's not due to the cover. All right, guys, that wraps up my video here of this Peragon cover, and I must say I am thrilled to have this thing on my truck right now. I am very impressed with it. This was sent to me as a sponsorship from them. I have not invested any of my own money into this. Simply so, with that being said, if I didn't like this thing, I would not be keeping it on my truck. And let me tell you, it will stay on my truck, because not only am I impressed with, the ease of the install, the directions, they have plenty of videos to watch. They give you like 100 days test drive. So if you didn't like it, you could send it back. The materials are great. 14 gauge aluminum, so much better than other tonneau covers I've used. It's going to be very durable. You'd have to take a hammer to it to dent the stuff. It's also still incredibly light because it's aluminum. So, when you're going to, fold it all up and pop that piece out to get something large like an ATV or something into your bed, you still have that ability to shut your tailgate. A lot of these crew cab trucks, the beds are a lot smaller. You can't lose any inch of it. And all those other tonneau covers that tri-fold, you know, you're losing basically a third of your bed. This cover is kind of a Swiss Army knife of tonneau covers, I would say, as far as what it allows you to still do, what it can do, what it's going to protect when it's closed. Really good against theft. You know, it's solid. Someone's not going to be able to just slice it open like your normal vinyl cover would. It's a very impressive cover. And, you know, as far as, you know, the water testing I did on it, you know, I was spraying the crap out of it. The seals hold really well. The finish is unbelievable. It's super strong. I tried scratching it. I couldn't. It's basically like bed liner. They do have ones that are just, they're coated with different coatings that aren't as heavy duty as this. I would absolutely recommend you get this one if you do any type of work with your truck. Overall, completely recommend this. You know, they sent this to me for free to do a test and a video of it. I have no investment in it of my own money at all, so I would not continue to run this if I didn't like it. They do have a test drive for 100 days, so if you bought it and you didn't like it, you could just send it back if it's not suiting your needs. I'm absolutely going to keep running this thing. I'm very impressed with it. You know, stay tuned, guys. I'm going to have some more videos coming for, you know, DIY stuff, product review, install, and functional testing. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for more.